Okay, welcome everybody. Capt Ron here with another edition of Fearless Flight Live. And not only do we have our regular crew, Diane Hansen and Eric Larson and Dieter Staudinger, but we have a whole team of guests. Well, we were supposed to. A few people couldn't make it, quote unquote. We'll deal with that later, though. Anyway, this is the place to be if you're afraid to fly, if you know somebody who's afraid to fly. Or if you just like to keep tabs on the airline industry. We always start out this way. We encourage you, if you're not a member of our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather private Facebook group, we do encourage you to join. We're over 1,500, and it's a very active group. And a lot of people report it's just nice to know that people are watching out for you when you get on an airplane. And that says a lot about the cohesiveness of the community. So please join if you're not a member. And Dieter and I, we're cooking some special things up for people who are in the Birds of a Feather group. And the only thing you'll have to do is join. So tonight, we got some special guests, as I said. I called it the Sacramento for lunch bunch. We did our 301 class on Saturday. I went over to Burbank and met a group of people, and we flew from Burbank to Sacramento and back. And we christened some new Fearless Flyers. We'll mention the 201 Live monthly group coaching webinar that's coming up on March 15th, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. I want to do a shout out for a 15-minute coaching session if you haven't done that. And as always, we'll take your questions and comments. So if you're watching and you have a comment, please leave a comment in the Facebook pages there, whether you're watching live or the recording. And we'd love to hear from you. So let's stop the share for just a minute. Let's bring our guest in, and we'll get this party started. I invited. We actually had 9 flyers. We had a couple who opted out they decided that wasn't their day to fly, which is the way I encourage people to approach this. If you get to the airport and you don't feel like that, we had a couple of the couple that have braved have slipped the surly bonds and shown their courage here tonight are Gary Rodriguez and Tracy Solis. So welcome to you guys. And we'll just start out. What was it like, Gary? You tell them, how excited you were about this, quote unquote.
Okay. Well, it turned out really good. I was very apprehensive at first. I mean, I don't know how much you want me to tell, Ron.
Well, when you say it turned out very good, that implies that getting there might not have been easy. So tell people what it was like for you. You can go back to October when that's the first time that you started showing up, and what your experience was there and what got you on the flight on Saturday.
Okay, so for me, I haven't flown in quite some time, probably about 8 years. I've just been really just having major anxiety, but usually it's anticipatory. If I know I had a flight, I just want to go. So that was really bothering me. So I joined this group, and last October, I went to the studio when they had one of these classes last October. And we did it in this mock-up of an airplane. So that in itself, just to get on an airplane or to get through the whole mock-up of the airport and everything else was took a little bit of that anxiety away from me. Unfortunately, I didn't fly that day because I didn't buy my ticket in time, and I didn't want to spend like $600 to fly up and back to Sacramento. So
you didn't want to buy one of their airplanes. You just wanted to use it for a while.
Exactly. So I was being kind of cheap, but anyways, I went down to the airport with the group. I made some connections with people in that group, and I saw them off. I was able to go to the terminal and watch them.
And now you're talking about when they actually went to fly the next day. Yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. The next day when they flew, I was able to see them off, and I met Trey and Tracy and some people there. Um, uh, but on that day, I was like, I could have done that. I could have done that. Well, the next time around didn't come until, this past weekend. So, honestly, I've been anxious to get on a plane. But when it got closer and the night before, I didn't know if I could do it, to be honest with you. I didn't sleep good. Um, I, but it's frustrating. It's aggravating for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I just said to myself, and Ron, you were great because you just says, look, if you get down there and it's not your day, don't beat yourself up about it. And I'm one of those persons that would beat myself up over that if I didn't go. So, anyways, long story short is I told myself, I don't give a crap what I have to do. I'm going to that airport. I'm driving there. I'm getting on that plane. And even if I get off the plane, at least I made another step forward.
Yeah,
So,
and that's an important thing that I want to emphasize is you had a commitment. When we did some coaching and when we talked about it and you expressed the fact that when you got closer you got more nervous, but you said I'm gonna go, and I suggested get on the airplane even if you don't fly that day, and make a conscious decision to exit rather than feeling like a victim and you got off because you got too frightened. And that is the key. That's the key. And the people who aren't able to do that, it's a much more difficult path for them. So yeah, so talk a little bit about the actually getting to the airport, what we did and getting on, and what was that like for you?
so then the first person I ran into was you, Ron, of
Yeah.
course, and he said it was going to be a smaller group, and um with Eric and Diane, and so I was like, I almost felt a little bit like, now I'm really under the gun. It's just going to be a few of us. So, but you know what? To be honest with you, here's the deal. Once we started talking, and
Yeah.
just like two guys or a guy and a girl, we just started BSing.
Almost
It
like
really
regular people, just like we
regular
were just going to
people.
go to the airport and go do something. And it had nothing to do
Exactly.
with flying. Yeah.
Exactly. And it distracted me. And honestly, I didn't really feel all that nervous to get
Yeah.
onto that plane. I really didn't.
Yeah. And now people are going to hear that and then they're going to say, oh man, see, he wasn't as bad as me. But tell them about that, Gary. How bad was it?
It was, I haven't flown in 8 years. It's been bad. I
Yeah.
mean, the person you really need to talk to is my wife, because she'd tell you, because it's aggravating. It's frustrating because I won't go on the plane with her. So, it was really bothering me. I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I canceled a trip that my whole family was going on. And so the other thing that happened, I told you, when Trey showed up. So here's the thing. You go to this group, you make some connections in this class on Facebook and stuff like that. And we all have a like mind. We have the same fear of flying. And now you have like some brothers and sisters that kind of like support
Yeah.
you, a support
Yeah.
group. So that made it a little bit easier. When Trey showed up and Trey says, Gary, I saw that you bought your ticket, so I wanted to fly with you. And I was like, oh shoot. I was like, I felt obligated now. I was like, now I can't back out because,
Yeah.
and I met him in October, just when I saw you guys off on their flight. And so then I felt obligated. But stepping on the airplane, I took a big deep breath and like, okay, I can do this, and like, let's do it. And then just I think that distraction, just talking to you and just
Yeah.
that just really took my mind off of the anxiety.
Yeah, it absolutely does. The community is huge. Even for all the people out there that are in, particularly in the Birds of Feather group, and you talk to each other, and I love watching the support in there. People talking about, they'll come on there and say, "Oh my God, I'm flying this weekend. Anybody got any words of advice?" And you'll get a number of people that will comment on that. And I was telling the group before we started, just knowing that somebody's watching you seems to have quite an impact on that. And then if you happen to be in one of the graduation flights where we do fly with people, it's altogether different. When you come to the airport by yourself or with your family stuff, you feel like everybody's looking at you. When you come to the group to fly like we do, it's like you're looking at the group, right? I mean, we don't care about whoever else comes there, and it's a much better experience. Hope we didn't lose Tracy. Tracy is in Hawaii.
I'm wondering if she's going up and over the saddle, if she had a cell.
Yeah, she probably lost.
Lost us, yeah.
So we may
I
have
have
to.
a question actually for Gary here from the
Okay.
chat. Gary, the question is, what is it that is your trigger of your fear of flying? Like, I know you mentioned anticipatory anxiety, but what about flying is your biggest trigger? That's the question here.
Well, okay, so my biggest, I mean, I guess the way my mind works, I think as soon as I'm afraid that I'm going to just flip out up there, I'm going to just lose control. I have a fear of just like losing it up, being on that airplane and then like, get me the frick off of here, like I'm just gonna lose control, have a nervous breakdown. I don't know. That's my fear, that I'm just gonna completely lose control once I'm up on the flight flying.
And do you mind, just for the audience, because I don't think we introduced you properly, what's your day job?
Well,
Now his day job is doing.
now you're gonna put me on the spot. Okay, so I'm retired. I'm a fire captain. I work for Los Angeles Fire Department. So I mean, and that's another thing that's like shame. It almost feels a little shameful. I go into burning buildings. I do some things that are super dangerous.
Look over his head and look to the right there. You see Valor things. He got those awards for pulling somebody out after the Northridge earthquake, right? Look over his head and look to the.
Yeah, it's right over there. I got a Medal of Valor for the Northridge earthquake, but the thing.
I think that's Trey. Trey, if there's any chance,
Just mute your, yeah.
I just muted him.
Okay.
But if you, Trey, could maybe use headphones, then we don't have an echo in the line. Thanks.
And we're just glad you came, Trey, because I know that's a big step for you. But go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
I was just saying, so I've been in part of my, my professional life. I've done some pretty, dangerous things, and I could do that with no problem because I'm working and my mind's focused elsewhere. I don't think of the fear or the danger, but getting on an airplane is a whole different ball game for me.
Yeah,
so
and just FYI, when Gary and I did some coaching, we did some EMDR and talked about that. Where in part of his life history, turns out to be relevant, and some decisions that he made as a kid growing up and all that. And so he, and Gary is so typical of particularly a lot of males, but not just males, but we have big T in our lives. That's like the Northridge earthquake, and little T's. That's growing up in the average family where we've got, you don't necessarily know what's going on all the time as a kid. And all those things are relevant. And the underlying issue was control, right, Gary? And the irony is you feel in control running into a burning building, because that's your job and you train for that and all that. But when it comes to things where you aren't in control, it plays havoc with your spirit.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And it's hard to reconcile that. Like, why does this happen to me? And I think one thing that you kind of help me with, or you're just saying, it's biological. Your brain just kind of fires in this area. It's nothing that I've done or whatever, and that kind of that kind of took me, you know, made me feel a little bit better about myself, because you think there's something, you're flawed in some way. I
Yeah.
know my mind works obsessively anyways. And then, you know, like if I get in that looping thinking where I'm, you know, okay, I got 5 more days till I get on that plane and I can't think of anything else. 4 more days and I can't sleep. I mean, it's exhausting, to
It
be
is.
honest
It
with you.
really is. And
Yeah.
and that's the key is thinking. The thinking is the issue because it triggers the biology. But in the same thinking that got you into it will not get you out of it. So you've got to learn how to change the way you think about flying. And the most important thing is you got to follow through and do it. And that's the thing. If I could have just anything that you all would remember tonight, it's you got to do it. So Trey, Gary was talking about that you're part of the reason why he didn't leave us on Saturday. If are you still there? Yeah, good. So you just showed up. What the heck? I'm sitting there minding my own business, and up comes Trey, and there he was. So what were you doing? You've been there before.
Trey,
now
I think you have to
I'm muted.
unmute yourself.
Yeah, Trey, if you could just hit the unmute button. Oh, there we go.
There he
Perfect.
goes.
What's up?
Huh.
Yeah, well,
Not much.
when I seen that Gary bought a ticket, me and my daughter, we got real close to him because my
Uh-huh.
daughter usually flew with me. She flies with me, so we chopped it up and had a very good conversation last October. So when he bought his ticket, Dieter said on the thing, he said, Gary bought a ticket. Gary bought a ticket. So I said, oh man, I'm buying a ticket because I want to go support Gary, and that's what I did.
Oh, it's a big deal. A really big deal.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to make sure that I was there for him because I understood when we had our conversation, we relate in other areas. He was a fireman down in my neighborhood where I grew up, and it was a rough area. And, I have a condition. I've been shot up, and he knows about the trauma centers down there in that area. He knows it, and he knew about my condition, and he understood it. So we
Yeah.
relate on a certain level.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that's a big part of the community
Yeah.
and connecting with people
And-
is,
and
we
then
all
also-
do. We're connected in so many ways that we don't think about.
And I always remember at the end of that harmonizer, it says, okay, now you've done this. Now you got to go help someone.
Mm.
Yeah. And it was really kind of you to show up there and take an interest there. And it had its desired effect there. He felt a little bit more of an obligation.
Yeah.
than he
And
had.
I believe that the talk therapy worked because it helped me out too, just to hold a conversation during the time with you and the other
Yeah.
gentleman that was there that
Yeah.
he's not here.
Yeah, we
now,
were
but-
talking with Hamlet.
Yes,
and,
sir.
and
Yeah.
Hamlet was and we got a lot of people who didn't come tonight, and that's not surprising,
Right.
and I totally honor them for not doing it. But that's
Yeah.
because even when you do it, there's a lot of embarrassment about being
Yeah.
somebody who was afraid to fly. But
Right.
you're an unbelievable example, Trey.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that. And you do a lot of good work in the community now. I mean, this isn't the only place you give back, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true. That's true.
Yeah. Big tough guy like you helping a lot of people out there.
But like I said, I have a condition that Gary knows. I have a bullet right next to my
Yeah.
heart. So I mean,
most-
my biggest fear is like flying over the ocean and something go wrong with the bullet touches my heart. Where they gonna land at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or who's gonna know about it? you
Yeah.
know?
Well, we can cover you in some ways. We can't do open heart surgery on you there, but we can give you a little assistance there. And
Yeah.
and in some ways, you're better off in an airplane than you are out in the middle of Kansas or well, even
Yeah.
out in a rural part of LA County or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So because of the
Yeah.
precautions we take for
But
people.
I'm really proud of Gary though, because he went through it, and we talked on the way out of the airport, and we connected, and I'm sure he's gonna fly again soon with either by himself or someone. But if I wouldn't have made that flight by myself, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm just admitting it. I need to
Yeah.
go with a
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah, well,
and
and
it's a
you're-
continue. If my daughter
Yeah.
wasn't with me, then I wouldn't have went. I'm by myself, like I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you showed up and you jumped right in, and I want to thank
Yeah.
you again.
And
It-
if you
it's
show up
always-
again out here in Burbank, I'll fly again with you guys.
we'll do it again. We'll be doing it
Yeah.
again for sure.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Yeah, right on.
Right.
And Trey, that from, according to Gary, and it really looked like it, that was his biggest stumbling block, was just getting on the airplane. So having you there and getting him up that one step, and in fact, I thought from all the people I've seen, he has the most clearly defined fence between it's all prior apprehension, and he really does not care once he gets on the airplane.
Yeah.
And so Ron has a photo in that collage of him sleeping, and he's got one of me in the collage of
Yeah, we were looking at you asleep.
me in the collage sleeping.
I got a great one, a
That's
great
not
one
the
of
stuff
Eric.
getting pictures of pigeons in a dumpster. I mean, as hard as I try, it happens.
Yeah.
But Gary
Yeah.
literally got on the airplane, and once he got on, it kind of went away for him, and out he went. I mean, it was quite something.
Yeah, it did. And he like I said, the talk therapy that Captain Ron was doing with all of us, the communication. I didn't even know I was flying when we were talking.
Yeah, we really got engaged. You and I
Yeah.
and Hamlet there, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. The hardest thing for me, but in the classes, is to not talk about flying all the time. Talk about
Right.
something else, and get people talking about
Yeah.
about their own selves and stuff like that. So, well, it was a great.
Ron,
Go ahead.
can I just,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people you have watching or not, but one thing I do want to say is one thing that I think kind of helped me a little bit the night before, the couple days before. I think I told you this. I was watching Skylight Productions, watching
Yeah,
Flight.
yeah. Send me that link for sure.
I'll do that. So
Yeah.
So I put my headset on, and someone films the whole flight. Okay.
Yeah.
And you hear if you close your eyes, you feel like you're on a plane. It almost feels like you're moving.
Right.
And I listened to that, and I landed in Burbank. I watched the flight from Arizona, from Phoenix to Burbank, and it was about the same as going to Sacramento. And I did the whole thing on my head, and I'm going, I think I can do this, because the sensations, once I got on the plane for real, the sensations very similar.
Yeah. And it is, that's what, to some degree, that's what EMDR sets people up for, and visualizations. But the main thing is to rehearse other than what you unconsciously rehearse, because people don't realize if you have an anxiety disorder, there's statements that you do. And again, I keep going back to EMDR is a wonderful way to get through some of this stuff. But you have these cognitions, and most of them are negative, and you rehearse them thousands of times when you're not even aware, and they're just constantly preying upon your confidence and your well-being. And so you got to do something, and you got to be proactive about it. So good for you for following through. Thanks again to you, Trey, for showing up, and
Yes, sir.
Tracy.
There's a couple of questions. I just wanna so first of all, Gary, if you could either message us that link or the information anyways in chat, I will make sure that a couple of people were asking about that in our in the chat here. And I also
We'll be coming up with more of that stuff ourselves. We do
Yeah.
have a video harmonizer. It doesn't do all of that, but we've got some stuff in the mill, so we'll be coming up with more of that.
And the other thing I really wanted to honor is Kay. Kay put a comment in that I think all of us can relate to, and it really touches my heart. She says, my husband loved to fly a lot with his business, and I could always go with him, but lots of times my fear overtook me and I wouldn't go. And her husband is gone now, and she says, I will give anything to take another flight with him. And that's really that do you know what I mean? It's this feeling of we can kind of keep it in our own little world. And Gary, you mentioned that it's that embarrassment and that shame that kind of keeps us hidden, right? And coming out just like you and Trey, and having that courage and really stepping forward into, you know, it's momentous. And I really hope that the people that are watching really get that.
It has, not being able to fly has consequences. Most people associate with flying with the modern era, and if you want to get anywhere, you don't want to spend half your vacation in your car. And so it costs people. And I have a lot of people I've worked with over the past 36 years who spouses of husbands who had the opportunity to fly, and they could take their spouses with them. You know, and then people have missed funerals. Some of the saddest stories I've heard are people feel forever guilty about not being able to attend the funeral of a parent or something like that, or missing vacations or missing weddings and things like that. And the good news is that kind of forms the mojo that some people follow through then and finally get on an airplane. But you can do that and just keep hanging with us, and we'll talk about we'll get you there. We'll get you there. So I want to say just a little bit, since Tracy got cut off. Tracy happens to be in Hawaii right now. Tracy has been, I did a VIP course with Tracy, and then she's flown, I think, twice with us prior to last Saturday, and she flew with us again. And then she literally got on the airplane this morning. She called Eric, and Eric had a little private dialogue with her. And were you guys texting as well, Eric, or just talk beforehand?
I was texting her about the winds aloft and radar picture and what I thought it was, how I thought it was gonna be, and it turned out this time to be correct. She had a pretty smooth ride, and they had a little bit of a tailwind, which you don't get every day going to Hawaii, and so she had a great trip over, and nerves not really bugging her. I had talked to a very nice gal, Sharon, a couple of weeks ago, and she got, and she hadn't not flown for 20 years. She was in LA going to Baltimore. So we talked a lot about it, and I thought she was going to have a fairly good ride. And I said, how was it when she got there, Sharon? She goes, I got pounded. And I go, oh.
I think she's watching, and I think that's so true.
I got pounded.
Yeah.
I go,
Yeah,
well,
no guarantees, but our program doesn't teach you how to find the smooth flights. It teaches you how to deal with whatever happens, and you know, and everybody makes it. So yeah. So let me go switch gears just a little bit here. We want to talk real quick, and then we can come back and close this thing up. I want to talk about the monthly coaching call. And if you don't know what to do, this is the place to start. Just come and join us on the third Thursday of each month. The next one coming up, says February 15th, should say March 15th, I believe. Check me on that, Dieter.
Yeah, it is March 15th.
And this one's titled Fearless Flight. How can you tell you're getting better at overcoming flight anxiety? And this kind of is part of this, a subset of this is the questions that Gary kept going over, is how do I know that I'm going to be okay when I do all this, even though I've done all this work ahead of time? And the truth of the matter is, part of the healing is activating that part of your brain that triggers anxiety, you know, and that's why medication, while it may be necessary to keep you from a 10 down to a 5 or so you got a little bit of wiggle room there. If you get triggered sometime on the flight, you've got to be able to get on and be semi-sober so that you can experience that anxiety. So you get the therapeutic experience of the exposure. It's all about exposure and to continue doing it. And what Gary was talking about with the videos there, that's a form of exposure, even though you don't get in there. And I think that watching videos and listening to audio and guided visualizations, I think that's superior to some of the VR stuff. VR was big about 10 years ago, you know, for overcoming fear of flying. And I know it's still out there, but you don't hear about it much. And it'll be interesting to see when, Apple's got their new computer deal where you do the VR glasses, and and it'll be interesting. And I've talked to some people about VR systems and stuff. If you ever have played with it, it's very realistic. But the VR for Overcoming Fear Flying was too cartoony, and you went in and you just sat in a little, just a very crude mock-up of an airplane, and your brain says right away, this ain't it. This ain't an airplane. So you can achieve the same things just like Gary did by watching videos and listen to visualizations. So okay, so we're gonna do just a little bit of a highlight about what we're going to cover. And we are going to talk about how you know you're getting better, and some of the things that we'll be talking about will, if I can get the slide there to advance. Are you watching the slides? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Never mind. I found the operator error here. So keep going. Come on, you can do it. Come on, next slide. There we go. So why is it so persistent? These are just some of the things we're going to talk about. Lack of exposure. We know that that's number one. If you never get on the airplane like Gary did, you ain't going to get any better, because you'll never be able to measure what it was like and actually mark your success. Negative reinforcement. We just keep, the old insanity definition. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results, it's a definition of insanity. Underlying anxiety disorders, those show up, and that's what EMDR helps to expose. Don't have any coping strategies. People tell me all the time, I flew 15 years ago. I tried to fly, sometime in between that, and it didn't work. I said, what did you do in between? Nothing. That's why. You got to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And then misinformation and catastrophic thinking. Those are two huge limiters when it comes to that. Signs you're getting better: increased comfort with flying. Listen to Gary, listen to Trace, and if Trey, and if Tracy was on here, she'd tell you the same. She made it to Hawaii, and when I first flew with her, I think 3 or 4 years ago, she hadn't flown in 26 years or something. I don't remember, Gary, if you do or not, but anyway. Reduction in physical symptoms. How many physical when you were sitting there, when we were doing the coaching, Gary, and you were feeling symptoms, compare the symptoms that you felt on the airplane once we got in the airplane and got underway. Or not. He may have gone into another room there. So anyway, improve coping strategies. If you got coping strategies, they'll improve if you practice them, and you won't have the resistance, and it'll allow you to fly more frequently, and you'll seek less reassurance. You won't keep wishing that you could fly with Capt Ron or Diane or Eric on the flights. And you'll start building a track record of positive experiences, whereas before all you had was negative ones. And in moving forward, overcoming anxiety is a journey that requires patience and persistence, and we highlighted that when Gary was on initially there. And you celebrate small victories and consider professional support if necessary. We want you to get better. We definitely want you to get better. And we think we got the way to do it. And we think one of the best things you can do is to join us every month on the third Thursday. If nothing else, do that. And because we have real people like you on there, we always have a bit of brainy cognitive stuff that we talk about, techniques and strategies, and then we try to we have a couple of visualizations that you'll get. You'll have access to all the past coaching sessions if you join our Fearless Flyer Club. And you'll get access to Diane and me and Eric and Dieter on a more active basis. And we actually do a little bit of work with people when they come up, when they've got the courage to open up, because everybody gets like Zoomified and nobody wants to talk. Everybody hides behind their video thing. So any other comments, Eric?
Ron,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a critic, but you sound fine and your background is fine. But
He's pulling a Harry Potter.
He
You're not-
disappeared. He put that cloak of invisibility on.
Oh yeah, I see.
And I just want to double check. It's the third Thursday, right?
It
Yes,
is the
it
third
is, and
Thursday.
it's March 15th. Is the next one.
March 15th is a Friday. You know that, right?
Sorry.
March 15th is a Friday.
Let me check. Friday 14th. So then it would be the 14th, March 14th.
And that's only the second Thursday. The third Thursday is the 21st.
Oh,
That's what we were saying. The third
that's
Thursday.
why we have Flight
is
Attendant
21st.
Diane.
That's why, yes, because otherwise The pilot.
Otherwise, we wouldn't even show up.
The pilots
Remember,
wouldn't be there. That's what we do. We pour Coke, Diet Coke. I tell you to buckle your seatbelt, and we keep the pilot, the captain, and the first officer in line.
yep. And that's a
I do
full-time
that
job.
real well.
That's a full-time job.
I just
So-
updated it in the chat, and the link is still the correct one. So,
Okay,
So remember,
my work here is done. Bye. No.
okay. So remember that one of the things we have to do in aviation is we know we're not going to be mistake free, but the next best thing is catching them. So that's what Diane just demonstrated there, how the industry works is to correct our mistakes. So
It's a team effort. It's a team
yeah,
effort.
yeah. Any other comments or anything out there, Dieter?
there was one question about turbulence, and I think it had to do about flying to Hawaii, and when you, Captain Eric, you were talking about the forecast that you gave Tracy or not, and the question is just simply how reliable are they, and I'm gonna just repeat what Ron said. First and foremost, when you practice what we teach here, it doesn't matter whether or not it's turbulent, because you're going to be able to manage your emotions and your thoughts and your experience. I don't particularly prefer turbulence. I don't know about you guys, but that is really the most important thing. But Captain Eric, what can you say about turbulence?
Well, exactly to reiterate what you said, the coping strategies are not, gee, what if it's bumpy or what if it's not? And those forecasts are pretty good and they're pretty reliable, and they get that way only in the very short term. So you're talking about 12 or 24 or a maximum of 36 hours out in front of when you're going to be making a trip. So if you've already planned a trip and bought a ticket, you really can't guess on when you're going to go out and buy a ticket and say, gee, I only want to buy one on a smooth day, because there's just no way to know until close in.
Yeah. And it's uncomfortable. It's annoying, but it's not any danger to people in the airplane. And despite when you see the in this modern era with everybody having a cell phone, everybody captures the chaos that it looks like when turbulence is going on. That's a good way to keep yourself off of an airplane. So come to us, tell us what you need, and we'll help you out. So Trey, I want to just say thanks again for you, not only tonight, but coming this Saturday and your commitment to this and helping other people. And Gary, wherever you are, again, thank you. And applaud both of your courage, and Tracy who got out of range and couldn't join us. We'll have her back on special, but you guys are
Really?
yeah.
She's
You guys are inspiration. She's in Hawaii. What does she care, right? Yeah.
She's suffering a lot. So.
You guys are inspirations to everybody out there, and thanks for coming on tonight. And thanks,
Okay.
Thanks, Trey.
thanks,
Gary.
thanks to everybody here.
Ron, can I say one last thing? Right.
Yes, absolutely.
One last thing for anyone that, like, in California area right now, Southwest is if you're flying in California, it's $29.
Right. They got a
flight for $29. So
yeah.
anyone that wants to fly up to Sacramento might.
And you can register with Southwest, and they'll put you on a list, and literally, if you have the volume turned on, they'll ding you when they have a sale come on. And I saw that sale today, and usually you got to look in the fine print and see it's like 4 days. Like the one that I saw, it was different from that. But I mean, they run in multiple sales, but they'll have a specific date. Like the one I saw was between now and the end of February. So, but they're always popping those out. And particularly if you want to keep your skills up, those are great things to do. $29, man. You can't drive your car across the parking lot for $29, you know. Right. And this is, and if you can capture one of those, give us a call and you know, schedule a coaching session. Bring somebody that you're going to take with you, and we'll teach them how to support you on the flight. And you get all the benefits that Gary got just like hanging out with all
and the
of us.
Birds of a Feather group is a great way to
yeah.
connect and fly with, somebody
Other
else
people. Yeah.
from the
yeah.
group. Really, really great way. Thanks, Gary, because it's really not that, like you said, you didn't want to buy the airplane when we had the class, but
Right.
for $29 flying one way, that, honestly, that's
less than a couple of Starbucks.
yeah.
Yeah, totally,
exactly.
totally. So thanks everybody. Thanks to all of you out there for making it possible for us to do the show. And we'll see you next week again for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.